Hi everyone, my name is Matisse and I'm a third year Environment and Urban Sustainability student. My project today will be discussing clothing and textile quantities as well as their impact on the environment. North Americans send over 10 million tons of clothing to landfills every year, of which the average person throws away 37 kilograms of textile annually, and in Canada, the average person throws away 81 pounds of clothing every year. This demonstrates direct effects on the environment as the fashion industry practices have become direct competition with sustainability objectives. As clothing quantity and number increase, though, the amount of times each item is worn is rapidly decreasing. To begin, we're going to look at a brief history of textile consumption in order to get ourselves situated and continue on with the presentation. Textile and clothing consumption was propelled by the Industrial Revolution and the invention of the sewing machine. This led to the rise in fast fashion brands propelling a shortened fashion cycle by making efficiency in manufacturing and shipping times a reality. This has resulted in the average consumer buying 60% more clothing than they did 15 years ago. It is estimated that 100 billion items of clothing are produced each year, and nearly 14 items for every human being on the planet are produced. Some of those never even reach the consumer, and nearly 60% of the items produced end up in incinerators or landfills within a year of their production. On this graph, we can see that fiber production has increased dramatically since 1970s, and we can see that about 2000, the year 2000, when fast fashion began to increase, we saw a huge jump in the amount of fiber production, and it's just continued to grow. So now we'll move on to textile production. Mass manufacturing of clothing and textiles results in insurmountable amounts of greenhouse gases emitted, as well as mass amounts of textile waste filling landfills across the globe. It is estimated that textile production alone releases 1.2 billion tons of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere annually, and the industry accounts for between 2 to 10% of global carbon emissions and is the second largest polluter of water globally. Moreover, around 70 million barrels of oil a year are used to make polyester fibers in our clothes. Let's look at clothing quantity now. The mass amounts of CO2 produced and water polluted are in direct correlation with the consumption of textiles and clothing by people of the 21st century. The average North American now owns between 102 to 148 pieces of clothing, of which they typically only wear between 40 to 79% of those items. To examine a specific item, let's look at a pair of Levi's 501 jeans, which, according to the UN, requires a kilogram of cotton that requires 7,500 to 10,000 liters of water to produce. Many of us even own a pair of the 501s and can see them in our closets right now. Levi Strauss estimates that in the lifetime of one pair of their iconic denim, 33.4 kilograms of carbon dioxide will be produced. 34% from fiber and fabric production, 8% from cutting, sewing, and finishing, 16% from packaging and transport, and 40% from consumer use. Recall, this is for one pair of denim. Now, if we look at the annual sales of Levi's in 2021, which amounts to approximately $5,763,940,000 US dollars, and divide that by the average price of denim, which is approximately $76 US dollars, we can see that Levi's produces approximately 76 million pieces of denim a year. That is approximately 2,533,000,000 kilograms of CO2 in 1 year, approximately 2.8 million tons. As Levi Strauss creates denim made mostly of pure cotton, this is a cleaner version of denim. Companies that contain elastane showed releasing 7 kilograms more carbon than Levi's analysis. Once clothing is produced, sold, and most often worn, there is then the issue of the clothing disposal and textile waste created by the industry and by consumers. According to Value Village, approximately 26 billion pounds of clothing and textiles end up in landfills each year. Every second, the equivalent of an entire garbage truck of textiles is landfilled or burned, creating even more carbon in the atmosphere. Moreover, waste and surplus from the textile industry that hasn't even gotten to the market results in even more waste to the landfills. People are buying more and wearing their items 36% less than they did 15 years ago, causing an increased use of resources and the accumulation of textile waste. There is a fundamental issue with the current fashion business model, where revenues are based almost entirely on selling more products and on 52 new fashion seasons a year. North Americans are shipping the problem of textile waste across the globe yet not addressing a simple issue of clothing consumption in excess. Here are all my references. Thank you so much for listening.